cover degree evaluations, which we actually won't cover until our last session. You'll see how that showed up. If you have AP credit yourself and you look at your degree evaluation, if you look on the last page of your academic coursework, there'll be a chronological list. And if you took any AP coursework, it'll be listed on the top of that list. Okay? And then throughout your degree evaluation, if it, like, say for Spanish, for example, if you're in, let's say you're a sociology major or in a major that you have a language requirement, underneath the language requirement, you'll see the course as a Spanish 201 because it has a direct equivalency. And you would also see it if it applied to any GE. Any more questions on that? Yes.
I just want to add, so this is a really important page to remember is in the catalog. You usually get quite a few students who just didn't know or for whatever reason haven't sent in their scores or they've just sent them in that morning or something like that. So this page, you can show it to them, point it out, and then they can figure out what they will already have credit in by even just looking at the scores on their phone. And then they can go ahead and register for all their classes. So this is a really important page that you know, you're going to end up using during orientation. So make sure you know it's there.
Thank you very much. Yes?
Is there a deadline to when they can send in the transcripts?
The question is there a deadline to when they could send in the transcripts? No, but because they're not sent automatically, if a student knows they have AP coursework, they'll want to send it to us as soon as possible. And that is because, going back to what Julia was saying, if a student comes in with AP credit, and let's say they took, if you look at your chart there, I can't remember the exact test off the top of my head, but let's say they took a course or took a test and scored high enough to result in, let's say, RWS 100. Okay, that's our GE composition. Well, that's one of our enforced registration courses. Now, we'll talk about that more further later on in training, but a student can't, oh, continue it, Frankie. A student can't drop an enforced registration course, okay? So we might run into issues if they haven't got us those transcripts. If they've gotten us the transcripts and we have it on file, then it'll be a lot easier to, to get that student registered in the correct courses. So as soon as possible is the rule of thumb. Yeah. Most students will send it in a timely manner when they realize that it's not sent automatically. Any other questions on that? Okay. All right. So let's look at another question. So which of the following is not true? If a student receives a score of 3 on the AP U.S. History exam, A, they will receive credit for History 109. B, they will receive credit for History 110. C, they will satisfy the California government requirement. D, they will earn 6 units of credit, which is not true. C, that is correct. Okay, so the California government requirement is referring to American institutions, California state and local government. Can anyone tell me why AP History 110 wouldn't satisfy?
Because it doesn't go over California government in the AP curriculum.
Right, because AP is a national exam, while this is a state requirement. That's exactly right. Any more questions on that? Okay. Okay, so the next term is IB, or International Baccalaureate. This is found on pages 476 and 477. This isn't going to be as common as AP, but it will come up. So IB is an accelerated course program during high school. It's similar to AP, but it's not exactly the same. SDSU may award credit for scores 4 through 7, or sometimes 5 through 7, on higher level subject exams in the IBAC program. I say higher level because that sometimes comes up as a student says, well, I had a IBAC credit, and we look into it, we find out that they got standard level, which means they won't actually get college credit. It has to be higher level. So same with the AP scores. IB scores do not get sent to SDSU automatically. So students must request an official score report to be sent to us. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, so another question. Which of the following is not true? if a student takes IB geography exam and she scores a score of 5, A, she will only earn credit if she took the higher level IB exam. B, she will earn 6 units of credit. C, SDSU will automatically receive the score results. D, she will earn credit for Geography 101 and Geography 102, which is not true. C, that's right. She'll have to, that student will have to request those scores sent to us. So anytime a student is submitting scores or a transcript, they must be sent directly from the institution to SDSU. A hand-delivered copy will not be accepted.
Will we have to know like the difference between a higher level exam and a lower level? Like, will the student know if they took it a higher level?
No, not necessarily. Well, they might. But mainly for you, if they say, hey, I took IBAC and it's not on my record, you know, you can flip to the page, just like you would the AP
Yeah.
chart, and you can kind of look at what they did, or look at what they say they did, and if it's still saying, yeah, they don't have anything, you look on their degree evaluation and nothing is there, you can come grab an advisor.
Okay.
And 9 times out of 10, it's either going to be they didn't send us the score, or they did, and they didn't get the higher level.
Okay.
Yeah, so they weren't awarded credit.
Okay.
Just like if they took an AP exam and they got both underneath a 3, like a 2
Okay.
exam.
Okay.
Any more questions on that? That was a great question. So let's,
There's one more.
oh, yeah, thank you, yes.
Oh wait, so is the lower, is that a different test, or that just means they scored below 4?
The IBAC,
Yeah.
it's the way that the program is taught. So when they're taught, they take certain kinds of exams. Just like if you took an AP class, but you didn't take the exam, you wouldn't be awarded college credit.
Right.
So when they went through the program, they did the standard instead of the higher, so it's kind of the equivalent of taking the class and not taking the test.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. Any more questions on that before we move on? Okay. So the next term is catalog year. So the term catalog year refers to the specific catalog year in which the student has rights to. So that's important. So it refers to the specific catalog year in which you have rights to. So, let me just expand on that just a little bit. So, for example, when a student comes into SDSU, let's say we're talking about a student that came in this past fall, so fall 16. So their GE catalog year will be 2016-17, right? So for any question about their general education or graduation requirements, they'll refer to the 16-17 catalog year. That will also be their major year. So for anything with their major, any preparation for major, the impaction criteria, all that, they'll refer to the 16-17 catalog year. Let's say the student changes their major in a future year, or adds a minor in a future year. Then that year will be their new catalog year for the major or the minor, if we're talking about that. Okay? So then they'll have to follow that new catalog year for their major. As long as they maintain continuous enrollment, they'll always keep their original catalog year for their GE requirements. So yeah, the student will have at least 2 catalog years. So for one for their GE and one for their major. And then if they have a minor, they'll have 3 catalog years. So if you have, let's say, rights to this catalog that's in front of you, you have rights to the 16-17 catalog year. So obviously, the students that are entering, that will be helping this summer, their catalog will be 2017-18. That's the catalog they'll have rights to. So, just to reemphasize, the major catalog year will correspond to when you declare your major. So if you, let's say you entered SDSU as a psych major back in fall 2012, and you've never changed it to something else, then the GE and the major catalogs will stay the same. They'll be 2012-13. But let's say that student changes from psychology to biology during the fall of 2016. Then their major catalog year for biology will be 2016-17. That makes sense? Yes.
So
So say a student, their original catalog year is like 2015, 2016. And say they like took leave of absence, would their new catalog year be 2016?
No, as long as they maintain continuous enrollment
Okay.
and they don't change anything, like change their major,
So it would be like not non-continuous enrollment?
is if they didn't file leave of absence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they just didn't attend.
Okay.
Yeah, because then they would break their enrollment.
Okay.
So why it's important to know about catalog rights, so I'll give you the example of, let's say as a student, you decide, you know what, I want to change my major to, I'm a sociology major, I want to change my major to psychology. So you go to the catalog that you currently have, the 16, 17, let's say, and you start following all the prep that's in the 16, 17 catalog year, but you do not declare the major. That means you don't have rights to the 16, 17 catalog, okay? So then let's say the next year you say, oh shoot, I forgot to fill out that form and submit it. So you go ahead and do that, well that means that you're then on whatever catalog year you're in, that's the one you have rights to. Things could have changed. Requirements could have been added, impaction GPA could have gone up, things like that. So it's really important to emphasize to students that this is the catalog you have rights to. Yes?
Does that also apply for students going from undeclared to a major, or like to a pre-major?
Undeclared, yeah. Usually with our undeclared students, they typically choose their new major within the same year. Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Does that include like changing emphasis?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So for example, College of Business,
Yeah.
if you were to change from accounting to management, you actually keep the same major catalog year
Okay.
because it's still the same major. You're just
Okay.
changing your emphasis.
Okay, that's what I
Now, yeah, that's a good question. Now, let's say you're in the College of Engineering and you change your major from civil engineering to electrical engineering. You will lose the catalog rights for the original engineering major and take on the new catalog rights if you're in another catalog year, because those are actually different majors. They're not just different emphasis.
Okay.
Yes?
How do pre-majors work, before you're actually in the major? Would you,
What do you mean?
like, so for like old nursing, would you declare it when you came in as a freshman as a pre-nursing major?
So I don't want to use nursing as an example, because that's one of our only majors that's a direct admit, but let's use
Okay.
pre-business, for example. So
Okay.
let's say you came in as a pre-business student, and you do everything you need to do. You do all your prep, and you get moved from the pre to the upper division major. You would keep the same catalog year, because you're not changing anything.
Okay.
You're just moving from pre to upper. Yes?
Do double majors have different catalog years for each major depending on when they declared the
Yes.
second major? Okay.
Yes, that's a great question, yeah. So let's say you came in, let's see how many more things we can add to this. So yeah, let's say you came in as that business student under the 2016-17 catalog year, and next year you say, you know what, I really want to add on another major to my second major, then 17-18 would be your year for that major.
And then so whether it's fall or spring of that year,
It's of that year, yeah.
Okay.
So it goes, when the term actually starts in August to all the way up to the day before the new academic year starts. So the following August, yeah. Yes?
Do significant changes happen often, or is it more just like the right to like make the changes that is like why we do this, or?
I can only speak to GE,
Okay.
because that's sort of my purview. So significant changes don't often happen to GE, but significant changes can often happen to
Like an
majors.
impaction criterion. and things like that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's all, and we'll talk way more about impaction criteria as we get going and kind of explain what impaction is. But based on impaction criteria, majors have that right to say, you know what, we need to bump up all these requirements, yeah.
Does this apply to minors as well?
As far as the year,
Or the requirements in the year, yeah?
yeah, absolutely, yep. That's why you could potentially have 3 different catalog years.
Okay,
One for GE, one for major, and one for minor.
okay.
Yes?
I know there's like the catalog that you can access from the web portal. Is that going to be the one that's specific to your year when you open it up, or is it updated per
So
catalog?
the catalog online, you have to make sure that you're looking at the correct year. Yeah. So it'll default to whatever the current academic year is. But if you know you're in a previous catalog year, yeah, you have to go into archive to make sure you're looking at the correct catalog year.